Well, that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's newspapers in the press preview. Tonight, we're joined by the chief political correspondent of The Sun, Jack Elsom, and the associate political editor of The New Statesman, Rachel Cunliffe. Welcome to both of you. Well, among the stories, we will be discussing this from the front of The Guardian. Its headline: the UK breaks with the United States to suspend 30 arms export licences to Israel. That and plenty more, of course, when we come back. Well, this is Sky News. In just a moment, the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. First, though, a reminder of our top stories. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said he will not surrender to pressure over Gaza after the UK suspended around 30 arms exports licences to Israel. The wife of a Conservative councillor has pleaded guilty to stirring up racial hatred online following the Southport stabbings. And on the day MPs returned to Parliament following the summer recess, James Cleverly and Kemi Badenoch launched their bids to replace Rishi Sunak as Tory leader. Well, hello there, you're watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. Time then to see what's making the headlines with the chief political correspondent of The Sun, Jack Elsom, and the associate political editor of The New Statesman, Rachel Cunliffe. Great to see both of you. So as ever, let's check out the front pages for tomorrow's newspapers, starting with the Daily Mail, leading with a claim from the Conservatives that the Labour Party is running scared of a backlash over plans to strip winter fuel payments for millions of pensioners. The Financial Times leads on the government announcing that it will suspend some arms export licences to Israel. That is also the lead story on the front cover of The Guardian, which says it's a break with the Biden administration's Israel policy. The Times also leading on the suspensions and how the move has been criticised by Israeli ministers and some Conservatives. The story also making the front cover of The Eye. UK restricts sale of weapons, it says. Telegraph has a story that car manufacturers are rationing the delivery of petrol cars in order to avoid net zero fines. The Tory leadership candidate, Kemi Badenoch, makes the front of the Express as she claims the Conservatives must return to traditional party values and stop acting like Labour. And it's Keir versus Oasis, according to the Mirror, as the Prime Minister proposes a clampdown on dynamic pricing following ticket sales for the band's reunion tour. While the Metro has a story on a missing student whose parents say they've been contacted by trolls looking to cash in on the disappearance. While the Daily Star leads on a claim by Jeremy Clarkson that one of the reasons the motoring show The Grand Tour is ending is because the world is becoming too dangerous for driving. Well, a quick reminder, by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers for yourself while you listen to our guests. So let's head straight to Jack and to Rachel. Welcome to both of you. Many of the newspapers leading on the situation in Israel, but including what we heard from the Foreign Secretary today, which was that the UK is restricting the sale of weapons to Israel. 1% is what Britain exports to Israel, and it's about a tenth of that 1%, isn't it? Is this significant nonetheless?
Yeah, listen, it's a very significant step in the evolution of this war since October 7th, about a year ago. David Lammy's statement in the Commons this afternoon really caught a lot of people by surprise, even though we know that this has been under review for a couple of months since they won that election. As you said, it's not going to have massive ramifications in terms of Israel's arms imports. It's less than 1% Britain supplies to Israel. And like you said, it's only 30 shipments out of about 350 to do with stuff like drones and aircraft and helicopters, etc. What this will do, though, is really, I think, rupture relations, diplomatic relations with Israel, one of our closest allies. David Lammy's almost sensed that in the Commons. You got the sense he was almost falling over himself to say, I'm a champion of Israel, I'm a proud Zionist, and I, will always stand together with Israel. However, this has been received very badly in Tel Aviv. We've got the Minister, Israel Katz, saying it's problematic. It sends a problematic message to Hamas and Iran. It gives succour to those groups. And also, even in Westminster, you have figures in the Tory party and beyond saying this is a really bad decision, and the timing can be worse because it comes on the day where Israel are burying 6 hostages. So, it's a very thorny situation for the Foreign Secretary at the moment.
Which is exactly the point picked up by the shadow Foreign Secretary, Andrew Mitchell, announcing an arms embargo on the day when Israel is burying its murdered hostages, and within weeks of British military personnel and arms defending Israel from Iranian attack is not easy to swallow. Many of the front pages, including The Eye there, the FT as well, showing the enormous protests we've seen after the death of 6 hostages at the hands of Hamas, the pressure now on Benjamin Netanyahu from within Israel and indeed from Joe Biden, who said he believed they weren't doing enough to free the hostages. Is there a sense of a build-up, a tipping point, do you think, for the Israeli government on this, or will he hold firm?
Well, certainly Britain's decision to release this news today comes at one of the most emotive times because of all that pressure building, and the pressure building on Benjamin Netanyahu, essentially from all sides, including from within his country, his own people. The Israeli government were clear a year ago that there were 2 aims to what they were trying to achieve. One was to release the hostages, and 2 was to eliminate Hamas and make sure that Hamas couldn't regroup. And it's been very clear over the last year that the priority of the Israeli government has very much been on eliminating Hamas rather than on the hostages, even if it comes at the expense of their safety, which is why you're seeing those protests erupting across Israel today. In terms of the UK government response, this has been coming for a while. As Jack said, there have been noises all through the summer that David Lammy was considering this. Also, from a wider perspective beyond just the Foreign Office, Keir Starmer appointed as his Attorney General a barrister called Richard Hermer, who appointed him to the Lords, so not an MP, who has been an outspoken critic of the Israeli government even before October 7th, and what we've seen since then, somebody who has, for a number of occasions over their career, made a stand against the Israeli government and its occupation of Gaza. So it's not surprising that this is the direction the Starmer government has headed in. It's also not surprising that they're taking a very legalistic approach to this decision, stressing that it's a small number of arms licences. They're not saying that Israel has broken international law. What they're saying is that there is a risk that these weapons could be used for that, and that's why Britain is taking a step back. I think, though, the nuances of that decision may get lost in the wider discourse because it's such a divisive and toxic issue.
And there's so much reporting now. Israeli media reporting deep differences between Mr Netanyahu and top security officials, including his defence minister, Yoav Gallant. An official confirming a shouting match between Mr Gallant and Mr Netanyahu at a security cabinet meeting on Thursday, where Mr Netanyahu held a vote in favour of maintaining control of the Philadelphia corridor, the bit, bordering Gaza and Egypt. And it does appear that the Israeli Health Ministry have said post-mortem examinations have determined those hostages were shot at close range and died on a Thursday or Friday. So the questions will linger over the prospect of a ceasefire and what happens next. Our coverage on that will certainly continue. In the meantime, let's go to domestic politics. Two of the Tory contenders launching today. First vote midweek. Where are we at?
It's really heating up now, this Tory, quite a protractive Tory leadership race. It's going to run all the way through to November. However, we're going to get sort of the real first flashpoint on Wednesday when we have the first MP knockout votes. So out of the 6 candidates, whoever has the least amount of Tory MPs on their ballot paper is going to be eliminated. So this week, coming out of the trap, we know they've been wanting to stand for a long time because they're on the ballot, but officially we had launches of James Cleverly and Kemi Badenoch today. Kemi Badenoch, I think, really now positioning herself as the standard bearer on the right. If you have a final 2 that go through to the party membership, you would think that you'd have one from the more centrist camp, maybe like a James Cleverly or a Tom Tugendhat, and then one from the right. And Kemi Badenoch is really pitching for those voters. And so today she gave this big speech in which she said that one of the problems of the last Tory government, why we lost, is that we said Conservative things, but actually in practice we did Labour things. And she didn't go into loads of specifics, but you can imagine that might be saying you were going to control immigration and then immigration going up, and saying you're going to cut taxes but then the tax burden going up to the highest in peacetime.
Or bailing people out on energy prices or indeed on COVID, which is big government, not small government.
A lot of spending, eye-watering levels of spending. And so I think she was really pitching to these Tory MPs today, saying that under her leadership, she will get back to proper, traditional, as they say, Conservative values. The problem is, obviously, is that she's been at the heart of government for the past few years, serving in the cabinet under Boris and Liz and Rishi, and therefore it's always difficult, isn't it? Because you want someone with experience, but if you just lost a big election, it's quite hard to try and extract yourself from what happened.
Yeah, to be fair, James Cleverly, a question was put to him too, and he said, look, we've all had cabinet experience, everybody who's standing. I got from her, I'm an engineer, I get things done, and I'm looking to the 2030s. That's sort of what I got from her. But anyway, who's going to be out is the most likely bet on come Wednesday on this first vote.
I don't think anyone expects Mel Stride to make it too far. Nothing against Mel Stride, but he's not someone who is talked about as a likely top 2. But beyond that, it's really anyone's guess, because the Conservative Parliamentary Party is so small at the moment. They've got 121 MPs that a couple of moves one way or the other could prove pivotal. And we know that because of the way these contests work, with one candidate eliminated at a time, you can't really judge it on in round 1, this is how many votes someone got, because when someone's eliminated, their votes then go somewhere. So the order in which people get eliminated becomes quite pivotal. I think if you wanted to sort of game it out, you could have quite a lot of fun with, hang on, if this happens, then that. But all of them have difficulty with being tarnished by previous administrations. Priti Patel is the only one who didn't serve in with Rishi Sunak, but she obviously has baggage, as it were, with Boris Johnson. And so they're all trying to distance themselves from the administrations they served in that failed or that caused significant problems, but also say, look, I've got all this experience. Look at the good stuff I did. Don't look behind the curtain.
OK, sorry, got loads to pack in tonight. Your list is so long. Just want to very quickly reflect on...
a lot of news.
I know. The
There's
councillor's wife who admits a race hate post, expecting, we're told, a prison sentence over the Southport stabbings. Just a quick reflection on this one.
Yes, Lucy Connolly today in court pleaded guilty to stirring up racial hatred in the wake of the Southport killings. She posted on X, formerly Twitter, she called for hotels housing migrants to be set on fire and wrote, "If that makes me a racist, so be it." Her husband, who's a Tory councillor, came out after this guilty plea today and said that she expresses a lot of remorse, but the judge says that she can expect a lengthy custodial prison sentence. Now, while what she said was pretty clear-cut and being, pretty abhorrent and, at worst racist, I think that this will be quite controversial in terms of the actual decision to give her a custodial sentence, because depending on what should people now be sent to prison for what they write? Some people will say absolutely yes. There needs to be complete deterrence and unequivalence in terms of what you say, in terms of stirring up all these attacks. On the other hand, some people will say it was a moment of madness, as her husband is saying now. Should she really be thrown in jail for what she posted on Twitter? So it's very contentious.
She's calling for hotels that are housing vulnerable children to be set on fire. She's literally saying, set fire to the hotels. I think that's pretty clear-cut.
Yeah. No, completely. Okay. In terms of the language, it's clear-cut. Whether the sentence should be custodial, a lot of people are going to be critical of that. But...
OK, sentencing coming up, I think October, they said, didn't they? Lots more still to come, including the stuff we still haven't done. We will continue our press preview and discuss the Ofsted reforms that is in the Times. Back in a moment.
United Kingdom.
These last few years have seen some huge stories. And these stories have been driven by politics, by politicians, the people in power.
You must stay at home.
And it's my job to figure out how these decisions made by politicians impact all of us in our everyday lives.
This is the worst thing I've ever been through in my life.
People turn up here with their child stuff in a black sack and just say, I don't want to.
And that is what it is. It's first-class poverty.
Is this an example of the welfare state failing?
We take you to the heart of the stories that shape our world.
These are stories that affect us all. Millions of children are now having to catch up. Some stories have changed all of our lives. Because like the residents, the staff are being infected. Politicians, they make decisions all of the time, and it's our job to hold them to account. I wonder if you will take this opportunity to apologise to those families. But in the end, the real power doesn't actually lie with the politicians. The real power lies with the people. I'm Nick Martin. I'm the People and Politics correspondent at Sky News.
Well, welcome back. You are watching the press preview with me once again, the chief political correspondent of The Sun, Jack Elsom, and the associate political editor of The New Statesman, Rachel Cunliffe. Busy day for both of you. Parliament back for the first time after the summer. Daily Mail has the story about winter fuel payments, most pensioners losing that money, suggesting that Labour are now running scared, Rachel, on this.
Well, suggesting that some Labour MPs, increasing number of Labour MPs, are unhappy about this or are facing pressure about this because obviously they had the elation of winning the election. They went off on their summer recess, not on summer holidays, because they were working very hard, I'm sure. But the news that Rachel Reeves had taken a look under the bonnet of the economy and gone, oh, it's even worse than we expected. We've got to find money somewhere. Right, let's make winter fuel allowance not a universal benefit anymore, a benefit that only goes to the poorest. And that's just what we're going to do. You know, no questions, no answers. That's it. They've now had the summer to get letters from angry constituents, to think about, you know, is this really a good look? Is this what they were voted in for after this sort of left-wing wave in the election? And this is pretty much, I'd say, business as usual, that new MPs get in full of hope and enthusiasm and then quickly run up against, yes, our government wants us to do that, our constituents want us to do that, the media wants us to do that, but I don't think there's any chance, really, of Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves U-turning on this.
Well, see, I wondered if
the
sort of backlash about this and the pressure of elements of the budget that may materialise mean that she'll soften what she plans to do in the budget, so it doesn't seem quite as bad as people are predicting. But anyway, who knows? It's weeks away.
Yeah, and potentially the tax rises that we're hearing about, we are obviously inevitably going to get some tax rises. Maybe it won't be as painful as they're making out, so that, you know, the sort of backlash over the winter fuel payments doesn't reverberate even more. I wouldn't be surprised. In fact, I know that a lot of new Labour MPs are getting their postbags absolutely full of angry constituents, mainly pensioners, completely incensed about this move because, unlike the two-child benefit cap, for example, which a lot of Labour MPs were angry about and obviously voted against, most of them held their nose and went through with it because actually it was a clear commitment which Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves went into the election saying that they weren't going to reverse it. The winter fuel payment, on the other hand, was like a complete bolt from the blue. There was no essential mandate for it. We didn't know that it was happening during the election campaign. Now, Labour will say, obviously, the state of the finances which they saw under the bonnet when they got in left them no choice. The problem now, I think, is that a lot of MPs are going to be really dialing up the pressure. And when they're back in Parliament, it really hits a way that doesn't materialise over recess. You know, they're back, they're talking with each other, they're all thinking about what we're going to do. They're under pressure now.
OK, and just a final quick at our last story, which is goodbye to the words outstanding, good and inadequate on schooling. Now we're told by The Times that head teachers will get notice about Ofsted inspections. They'll be told on the Monday if inspectors are coming that week, designed to reduce stress on school staff. Both of you, thank you very much indeed. We'll talk about that and more in the 11. See you for that. Here's the weather. Well, it's looking quite unsettled this week, I'm afraid. Widespread showers, some more general heavy rain in the south on Thursday. There'll be a cooler, fresher start for most tomorrow, although still quite muggy in the southeast. There'll be just a few fog patches in the south, a scattering of showers for southern and western parts. Eastern England will be quite cloudy from around the Humber southwards through the morning with some heavy showery outbreaks possible. Eastern Scotland, northern and western England and Wales can expect plenty of sunshine after early cloud clears the southwest. Well, all the top stories coming up for you in Sky News at 11. More on a defiant performance from Benjamin Netanyahu as he faces pressure at home and abroad over the prospect of a ceasefire for Gaza.